Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. It is the 11th Wednesday, and it is a holiday today. So, I don't know how much action we're going to see. No news. Could be interesting, and especially since yesterday was relatively range-bound, and the traders kind of split the difference. Yeah, I'm a little wary about putting on risk today, but let's go look at the charts. We're going to have some fun. Volume profile. Okay, so here's the really big move up, and then yesterday kind of going nowhere, and then today kind of going nowhere. I mean, I guess it's not really going nowhere because that's like a standard move, and this is just really gigantic, but yeah, slightly up though, and you're just seeing quite a bit of index rotation. You can see here this with the spread. Look at that as it went up, and then a lot of S&P 500 strength compared to the NASDAQ, apparently. Okay, treasuries yesterday, they kind of started making the push down and bounced back up. And then again, overnight, they're doing it again here. So the treasuries continue to look heavy and could be a problem. And again, 137.04 or so is about 1%. So we might have to recalculate it because it kind of drifts a little bit. Brad says, hello, how are you? Oh yeah, while we're doing this, let's turn on the text-to-speech bit. Let that boot up. Okay. Oil continues its rise. Is well above the channel now. Back to 43, huh? I don't know. Some of the guys yesterday were saying they want to short it at 41, but that apparently was not the right call, right? GC. GC kind of is threatening the downside at the moment. Downside of its channel there. And copper falling as well. That's interesting. Well, what about the dollar? Dollar continues to strengthen. Well, the dollar strengthening, I think, may be related to Brexit. I bet you if we come over here and look at the 6B, yep. Still quite volatile over there in the British pound, and there's all sorts of Brexit headlines coming around. So I'm hearing, or when I was reading my news squawk, it sounded like they were doubtful that the real deal was actually going to happen. So, and the Treasury's quite tight here, although I do think I could put an order to kind of, slip in here if they decide to go down. Okay, Jake Sherman's talking. The National Defense Act authorization, which sets Pentagon policy, has passed every year for almost 6 decades, so this is as must pass as it gets. But remember, when the Senate passed this bill over the summer, the White House was upset that it included language that forced renaming of bases, this whole thing, for Confederate generals. The president has been opposed to renaming bases, but in Congress there's bipartisan support for it. Here's the thing. You would think that there would be a desire to just get a lot of stuff done during the lame duck session and not have all of the shenanigans. But it's not like that because we've got these Georgia runoffs. And so there's going to be all of this incentive to want to try and, persuade Georgia voters. Don't pass, have some big bill that doesn't pass, make it not pass over the renaming of the bases, drive out the black vote in Georgia over it, Yeah. I can see it happening. So probably any bill right now is probably not a given. The White House seems to have its priorities of its own. One thing we keep hearing about is a desire that Congress codify the Women's Global Development Program known as WGDP. It's tough to see anywhere that lands here and who in the White House as any Jews anymore. G says, new to the channel, want to say thanks for all the sharing. Thank you very much. I think today we mostly, I don't know. I mean, this trade already in the Treasury is going pretty good, but I think that mostly we're going to have some fun today. Look at that, falling through on not very much volume. So normally when that happens, I've always traditionally been a little skeptical. Because I feel that if it's able to go through really quickly, like that there's a possibility that they won't hold the offer either. And that is true, but I'm starting to notice, at least lately, that if the market makers aren't willing to hold the bid at 17, they're probably not willing to hold the bid at 16.5 either. Short USD is JP Morgan says vaccines still to prove its efficacy against the dollar. Short USD is therefore both a consensus view and a consensus held trade, unlike some of the trades that did explode into life yesterday, such as the rotation from growth into value in equities. Good morning, everybody. Everybody coming in. SVN, this is a new name, or at least one that I haven't seen in a while. Oh man, we should have somebody. We were having a little bit of, I get a little upset yesterday. And there's some more to discuss about that, actually. But I think we'll wait, a good 30 minutes, hour to discuss that one again. But there have been some developments on that story that I think are quite amusing. At Lobo Traders, big smile. He knows what I'm talking about. Oh, it's about as good as it gets, actually. If I must say, it's about as good as it gets. I know. I'm all playing with you. Sitting here like, dude, don't give me blue balls. Don't worry. We'll deliver. We'll deliver. I have a feeling. Probably, bad timing on that comment. I like that you're so data driven. Thank you. So you know what? That reminds me. So Anthony Crudelli, let me go find it. Let me go find what he was posting. What was it called? Here we go. It's Think Group, their thinkgroup.net. Their thinkgroup.net. Six Sigma cult technique. It's a culture. I have heard that before and I don't remember what it is. But is I seem to recall it being some sort of decision-making process for management to use in companies. Oh, there you go. So see, they were able to tick back up at 17 because there weren't any takers at 16.5. But note that the offers were much more willing to take it there than the bids were when they took it through, right? When we traded down, it was like only 700, and that time it was 1,800. Do you have an algo system? Oh, you know what that reminds me? That reminds me, I have this thing that I need to... Oh, you know what? It didn't save. Let's add aces back on here. Hey. We'll do ace 5, and that doesn't matter, but... Price change, sim, blum, 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 blum. I feel like I'm missing something, but that's okay. We'll turn them both on. So I have this one, the one right there that's cum delta MACD. It's a tick replay indicator, so it kind of has some issues with the strategy backtester and NinjaTrader since their latest update. When I first developed it, I could backtest it. Now it's like I can backtest it, but it uses all the memory. And it was like over the weekend one time, I went and let it backtest and only backtested a week, and it took like all day. It took like all day to backtest it, but the results came back were about what they were before. Man, I know I saved a screenshot somewhere, but I can't remember where I put it. But it was running a profit factor of like 2.5, and it had a Sharpe ratio above 1. So that one I'm really interested in, but my recollection has been that when I try running it, that it doesn't perform quite the same as it does when I backtest it. So I've resorted to just running it here, forward testing it, and seeing how it works. This other one that's based on Ace's strategy, I think that its Sharpe ratio is under 1. But I'm still doing work on this one. This one I'm running it live to kind of see where it takes it and so forth. But woo, I'm impressed. I'm impressed that you're interested in the Sharpe ratio of them, because most people don't think about that sort of a stuff. Like, the thing that drives me crazy is that people will go and they'll program a strategy and they'll see that it works, like that it has a positive expectancy of some sort, and then they're like, oh, they're done, I found something profitable, and then they just start trading it. And it's like, you have to compare it to what your alternatives are, because you could just put your money in the S&P 500, right? Now, that doesn't mean that a day trading strategy has to beat the return of the S&P 500, right? But if it's not going to beat the return for the S&P 500, you need to get something back in return, right? Like some level of consistency that comes through it, and low drawdowns that makes it more suitable for living off of, for instance. That's really the goal with day trading, right? And that's where a Sharpe ratio would be really important, right? Not to mention that if excuse me, not to mention that it's much more likely to continue working into the future if it has a high Sharpe ratio. That's what I was getting at. Because I've seen a lot of strategies that actually appear to backtest like really well, and then the market changes, and when you increase your data set. But here, that's that one that I have that seems to be really good. I can't test it over 4 years. That's too much data. Because you're talking about running tick replay on every, basically one tick bars on the S&P 500 for 4 years. It's not, I don't have the horsepower to do that. NinjaTrader Q is better if you make a B drive and give the program high priority. So you saying have it run on a different drive from your operating system? Well, I've been noticing that what will happen to me is depending on how big the data set is and how many iterations you're going through, NinjaTrader will just, hit this catastrophic level where it's using 95% of your memory and then it just chugs. And I've been wondering if I go and I get more memory, if that will increase the size of the data set that I can test. Tommy says yes. I mean, I have 2 drives, but I had one smaller one and I took that out actually and gave it to my put it in my other laptop. Maybe I should go and try and get another Evo drive. But I think that first I'm going to try increasing my, I'm going to try buying 2 more RAM cards and increase my RAM from 16 to 32 and see what that allows me to do. And hopefully it's just the size of the data set that it's trying to go through. And maybe it has something to do with that, like one iteration is just too much, in addition to like how much memory it has to save all the results. That's another thing that I've noticed is you can go in and you can tell it to not remember past trades. If you give it to me, I can test it for you. I have a big box. Sure. Actually, so I have a couple. And so let me give you a different one first and see how your box handles that. And then 64 gigs. Okay. Use AWS. Yeah. That's a thought. That is a thought. I've just been thinking, like, there's a couple of things that we want to do with the channel first. But if the channel keeps doing as well as it has been, I might be able to just, because we have this video about computer hardware that is like, it's so incredibly popular. I thought that was going to be like my crowning video. I remember telling you guys this. I was like, this is probably one of the best videos I'm going to make because it's like the thing that like I know really well, right? And it has done way so well. And it's brought a lot of people to the channel. So, if we continue growing like this, and sometimes the channel will just blow up and all of a sudden you go from, we're almost to 4,000. All of a sudden you go from 4,000 to 10,000. And at that point, I think that we would probably be able to get our hands on some real hardware. And I would really like to get into like a Threadripper type of machine. It seems to me that to do some of the back testing that I want to do, where you're really back testing like a really big data set and you're running thousands of iterations of it, that you need a big machine with a lot of memory and so on and so forth. I personally, though, don't think that the disk access, I got a pretty fast drive. I forget which one it is. It's like the 870 Evo, something like that. Anyways, oh man, I got into that and I forgot what I was going to talk about with Anthony Crudelli. That's funny. Okay, so he has this thing called theirthinkgroup.net/intuition brain game. And it's this game that I guess they developed after a study that happened a long time ago, where they were saying that your ability to predict price patterns had something to do with your instincts on watching certain kinds of social reactions and understanding what's going on. So they have this weird game where there's like different shapes on the screen and they interact, and then based on their interactions you try and predict where they're going to move to next. And I guess the idea behind that one was that your intuition is better able to tell which way price is going to go than your like hard analysis will be. And that if you can develop that intuition and trust of that intuition, that you can do better. And Anthony says that he does it before every trading session, but it's like you can go and you can try it you can do like a demo. When I do the demo, like I got every question right, and I'm like, this is probably too easy. But yeah, let's jump it into Apache Spark. I don't know if that's, you know what, if we were going to do like a tick replay over the last 4 years, then maybe that would work. But yeah, that's actually kind of gives me, because here's the thing is I'm starting to feel like that NinjaTrader's backtesting just isn't sufficient to do some of the more advanced things that we want to do. So I've been wondering, could I develop my own system that backtests? And I could use well, I don't know if I would use C++. I'm kind of interested in using these newer languages like Golang maybe, but like I'm also interested in like Rust and some of these other ones that people like really, really praise. And then develop a system off of those. And then on top of that, I could attach in like neural network type of things. You know what I mean? And see what we could get out of that. Because I think that the next step, because I've really gone through and done just about, I have this series where I'm backtesting, like technical indicators. And I'm going to go through like literally every popular indicator with those. And when I'm going through those, and I'm, I don't show all of this in the video, but I'm going through like every possible iteration of these indicators. Like I have the Bollinger Bands, and I went and I got Lizard's Bollinger Bands, and I'm doing all of the different iterations that those Bollinger Bands allow you to do. And it's like thousands of different iterations of it. And if you go in on a year period, you'll go and you'll do one, and you'll find one setup that it works like crazy well. But then when you increase the data set, it doesn't do as well. Anyways, so that's where I'm kind of focusing my efforts on the programming side right now, and I don't do it a whole lot. And then I'm reading this book about market microstructure, which is really complicated, and I may end up trying to program some stuff off of that. But then after I'm through with that stuff, then I think that I need to get into the machine learning stuff. So I, learned about machine learning algorithms when I was in school, but I've never touched them. So I want to do that. I keep thinking about that thing about the D drive. I don't know. There must be some more information out there about this than what I found, because I'll search for threads about NinjaTrader stalling and running out of memory and stuff, but like I don't get any solutions or anything conclusive in them, so I don't know where to go from there. Anyways, have you looked at Quant Connect, though? Hearing what you said on NinjaTrader makes me think twice committing to NinjaTrader. So, yeah, well, so one of the problems that I've had, Woo, is that when I look at everywhere else that in terms of like quant stuff, most of these guys are running Python scripts that download historical data from a service and run through it like that. You know what I mean? So like, just as an example, like your ability to go through and do tick replay. I haven't seen, how would you do that? You know what I mean? I haven't, you would have to write that from scratch, essentially, right? But anyways, the gist of it is everything that you look at, it's almost always going to be predicated on trading stocks, and it's probably going to be a longer term portfolio strategy that you could that's probably better suited to turning into a hedge fund. You know what I mean? Whereas on Ninja, and so then you get into all these things like which technical indicators are the best, and actually they all kind of suck and all that sort of stuff. And you'd think, okay, with all of the backtesting tools, you would think that it would be easy and that it would be really widely known, this information, and yet it's not. And I believe that one of the reasons why is because NinjaTrader and TradeStation are really the only two platforms out there that I know of that really have an effective enough backtesting to even ask those kinds of questions. And even then they kind of have, these edge cases that are kind of annoying, like with me in the tick replay. So I would say if you want to do some backtesting, and especially if you want to do what I'm going to call like indicator soup, where you're going to combine a bunch of already known technical indicators into a system and try and trade it like that, then NinjaTrader is really your best way to do it. And especially since NinjaTrader now has all of this stuff to like, you can tell it all of the parameters that it can change and like the range that you want those parameters to change in. And then it will set up like a machine learning algorithm that tries to find the best set of settings based on, testing it, which is basically like curve fitting on steroids. But and then at that point you can start to get into things like how trying to play a metagame. Like you could say, okay, here's something that tested really, really well yesterday, and ergo it's not going to do well today, or whatever the thing is, right? Jeff, for what it's worth, you can dump NinjaTrader's replay data to text and run your own simulations on it. Oh, okay, maybe I should look at that. I've never messed with the actual data replay because everybody tells me that it's awful. You could try an online platform like QuantConnect, but that's the thing is like, would QuantConnect? So like as an example, I have one robot that uses the level 2 to base its trades, right? Which is kind of hard to backtest. You kind of only have to forward test that, but you get what I mean? Like I can do that in NinjaTrader. It's not as nice as I would like, but I don't know if there's a better way to do it. So that's where it's like, if you want to do algorithmic trading and you want to trade it in futures, and you want to have a really good backtester and some sort of, like those auto generation, NinjaTrader really is probably your best bet. NinjaTrader or TradeStation. But I totally understand the hesitancy to do it, right? Like on my side, if you're, I do the algorithmic stuff, but I haven't found one that I'm like really actively trading. And I'm mostly trading news. And, if it wasn't for my one model that I've written, I could probably just use the jigsaw charts and I would be perfectly happy. You know what I mean? So the way platforms are in the trading space is really interesting because there's no one platform that is perfect and works well for everybody. And, a big downside of NinjaTrader can be that if you don't want to use their brokerage, then that's a problem too, right? The actual replay mechanism is terrible. You just want to dump the data that will give you the full book and all trades. I have to think about that. I think first I need to increase my memory. Like that's the first thing is if I double my system memory, does it not crash when I try to do an iteration of more than 1,000? That's the first question. Yeah, let's take it from there. You gotta remember, I'm like ADHD, and I can only fit so much in my temporary memory, and trying to think about going that far on something is one step at a time. Okay, well, we were able to get it to come back down, and not much liquidity holding it. And overall, especially in the E-mini, the behavior is very, very slow and quiet, although slightly to the downside. Yeah, no problem. You sound a lot more serious than most people that I see coming in talking about algorithm stuff. You get two kinds of people here. It's kind of funny. You'll get people that are brand new and don't know anything about futures, and sometimes I'm like really concerned. So like our friend that we were arguing with yesterday, I'm a little concerned for him based on what I've learned yesterday. But then I also get these people like, I think Gary is a good example, and Uzi, and so many people that have just been trading for a really long time and are really good at it, and I don't know how they do it, and I don't know why they come here and put up with my bullshit, but just really great traders, And one of the things that's frustrated me is that I want to get into program, like this thing that I got here, and I feel like I explain it every day, but I'm doing a model to try and figure out what the average position of the buying and selling market makers are by looking at all of the orders and running some rules about when they're taking profits and entering positions and so on and so forth. And you can try it out 2 weeks for free, speculatorsnet.com. And then after that, you have to have the channel's elite membership to continue using it. But I find it like I can't trade without it anymore, because I otherwise I don't have any context as to which side is winning and where we're at and what is actually going on. That indicator was complicated. I have to say, it was an indicator that if you're a computer science guy, that you're more than capable of writing the algorithm. But I had to make a lot of little optimizations and rewrote it a couple of different times, and discovered my own things in there and added to them, and it was complicated. And I'm sitting here like, well, why? How do I get into more complicated stuff? Because when most with the things that most people bring to you are just like, oh, this is just another moving average, it's just like a little bit of math, and then it outputs something. I want something more sophisticated than that. Probably have to get into machine learning to do that, but you know what I mean. And so that's where it's like I really am hoping we can continue to attract some serious programmers or build some serious programmers, so that eventually we can try some more sophisticated stuff. Because some of these sophisticated ideas, it seems like I'm more than capable of programming them, but I'm probably not actually going to come up with the idea. You know what I mean? Unless it's an idea related to the level 2 stuff. So, but we're learning more on that, and we'll see where that goes. Man, it is cold in here. You know what's so annoying is I went in and I changed the Nest thermostat is so effing annoying. Man, I mean, I like it, and I think it was worth the money and everything, especially since you get like a write-off and everything. But, oh, it's so annoying. So like I went in and I said, okay, I think I want the house to be 70 degrees all the time. And then I went to sleep, and it was too hot in my bedroom, and I couldn't sleep. And now here this morning, it's cold. Like I have socks on, but my feet feel really cold. It sounds like it's raining outside. I guess I kind of closed the heater in this room too because the lights and everything usually heat it up. But I wonder if it's actually cooler out there. How far down do you think the treasure can go here? It's still incredibly, like, look, that, like, the number of level 2 changes that we're getting per minute and everything, it's like nothing. This thing is just, like, so dead. Like, in ES, we're talking about, well, that's a new bar, but we're talking about only like 2,000 changes per minute. That's not a lot. No, I didn't have Twitter up here. Let's check what's going on in Twitter. Yeah, I read that Goldman big note out today, kind of the news wires and everybody else picking up on it, that Goldman expects the S&P to hit 4,600 in 2022, which just seems so far away. But hey, at the end of 2022, sure, why not? Yeah, cash treasuries are close to day, usually pulls the volume out of the futures. Yeah, I was wondering, like, okay, I don't remember Veterans Day being in the middle of the week. So how does that affect the action? Well, I mean, stocks are still going to trade, right? But it just looks dead. It looks like we should just have some fun. Maybe we should program something today. Thinking, what was I actually like looking at though? Maybe we can try doing something with like the moving averages and seeing if we add some filters to those, whether they do better or not, because I'm kind of interested now. One of the things I'm interested in is what makes the best kind of trigger and what makes the best kind of filter. Ethereum infrastructure provider in Fura is down and crypto exchanges begin to disable Ethereum withdrawals. Man. Wow. Oh. My ears just did something weird. A VIX filter? I wish I could do that one, but I don't get data for the VIX. At the moment, I'm not getting data for the VIX, at least. So I went over to Rhythmic, and I don't think that there's a way to do it with Rhythmic. At least not where I'm at right now. I'm sure that there's a way to do it, but that they're just not going to provide it. I could do the kinetic stuff, but nah. Is trading your only job? No. I have a day job. I do site reliability engineering, which really I develop and maintain the systems that the real site reliability engineers use. Oh, there's a spider on my camera. We're gonna kill that. No, sir. Did you get it? No. Die. I don't want tons of little spiders in my office. Need to go and spray. They're all coming inside, I guess. No, so yeah, and it's for a healthcare company. Well, like a healthcare exchange. So I have a day job, and in of course you can make a living from trading, for sure. You can also make a living from doing YouTube. But the chances of you being able to actually make a living from day trading is you're probably going to have a lot of money to begin with anyways. And the way that we're trading, it's going to be really hard to do. And you'll note that a couple of the guys that are here in the channel that do trading full time, that they usually have other sources of income still from like their spouses. So. Oh, you have your Nest connected to it, Alexa. No, never. I honestly, I kind of wonder, like, should I have really installed the Nest? I feel like, you know, I'm inviting the deep state spy whatevers into my house, you know? Because I kind of start to game down into, like, how much utility does this thing actually provide? Because it certainly doesn't increase my comfort. It's more annoying because when you make a change, it takes forever for that change to take place, and yeah, it's annoying. I guess it's good to have like a schedule and everything, and if I get the schedule set up just right, then I don't have to mess with it. But it's harder in the winter though, because if you want it to cool down at night, it's harder to make it cool down, you know. There's Ace. How are you? We're kind of sitting here like, we do have this good trade in the treasuries, but action is pretty poor because of the holiday right here. Oh man. Oh, so I haven't really seen a whole lot on Twitter about this, but have you guys been following this drama with the postal worker in Pennsylvania that claims that he was being asked to backdate ballots? So first he came out and he said that they were asking him to backdate ballots, and it was like a Project Veritas thing. They had a video about it. And then yesterday, there was all of this stuff about, you know, people saying that he recanted, essentially. And so that was like all over Reddit yesterday. And then late in the day, he posted a video through Project Veritas saying that I don't recant it. And that this is all, you know, this story here is wrong, and the news outlet that's putting it out should recant because it's false. Okay. So then this morning, I see a video that says that from officials saying that the guy has withdrawn his complaint. And I'm like, so he didn't recant, and he made a video about how he didn't recant. And now he is recanting, and I'm not sure I believe him. The whole thing is, well, I'm not sure I believe the media report. Until I hear from his mouth that he has withdrawn it or recanted, I don't believe them, right? But it's just like the whole thing is like a real drama. And then they posted this video that is really quite disturbing, where there's like investigators from the post office. They have their own like law enforcement interviewing him and like trying to manipulate him. It was really kind of like, what am I listening to? You know, that sort of a thing. You're looking for a short? Well, yeah, I think you got the room. I mean, it's kind of slow, but I mean, there's that last little move down that we've had from 65. You know, if we zoom in here, we kind of have to zoom in because it's moving so slow. This last little move down here is kind of probably your normal trade, right? So even though it's slow, it is still doing stuff. Okay, so the 14.5 did go bid, but it doesn't look like they really hit into it. And I'm seeing in the 5-year a pretty big bid order there. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my profit. I kind of learned from yesterday, like, and you catch some of these in the treasury. I'm maybe I've been looking for too big of a swing, so okay, 63 and a quarter. That one doesn't look very good so far, does it? Texas COVID-19 cases exceed 1 million in worsening new wave. Bloomberg. Well, it doesn't look very good in Utah either. There you go, Bloomberg. Trump's campaign is requesting recounts in at least 2 states, but President-elect Joe Biden's lead is big enough it's unlikely to make a difference. So they got some numbers in here. Biden has a lead of 12,000 votes in Georgia. That's not that big. 20,000 in Wisconsin. Yeah, or lawsuits. They've already filed. They were filing lawsuits today about it, so I get what he was saying. The other day he was saying that the margins were better than they thought. And I'm now that I'm seeing that, I'm realizing, like, actually, yeah, if they were able to get a couple 10,000 votes, thrown out on the basis of fraud or whatever, and they were all like, 80% or 100% for Joe Biden, then probably would be okay. I'm also learned from yesterday, and I'm going to take the cautious approach here. Tight stop. Anyways, they could flip it if their challenge actually wins, which I don't know what the probability of that is, but it looks more doable than I think I thought yesterday. Yeah. The issue with that one was that they were a little overextended down there. So you see on the Bollinger Bands here, 63 and a quarter. Yeah, that was a little too aggressive. But like I said, if we had taken it way back here, then you would have gotten your 2 points. So, and I guess it could have gone a little bit because you got 25 and then you got 1 point. You should go long right here. Well, you could have, but is it really a 5 minute? I mean, the current 5 minute bar is, I don't know. My thinking right now is that if we really want to take one in the E-mini, there's going to be plenty more opportunities when they actually open up, and given that it's a holiday, that might be a good idea. Okay, so because of that one, I actually got a pretty okay spot in line, but I need somebody to hit me. Okay, cool. All right, so got four on that one. It seems kind of, I feel disappointed, but then I'm really thinking about it, and I'm like, no, that wasn't too bad, Seth. It never went against you. You got 4 ticks. You saw the right spot, and it was good. Now you're going short again? Well, So while we're sitting here, I will tell you the story now here, because we're coming up onto the open. Or should I wait and see if our friend comes back in? We can argue with him about it. Oh my gosh. Who was? Oh, I forget the name even. Was that's right. Gorilla digits. Yeah, that's right. So here's what I'm thinking after what I've learned. Gorilla Digits is either Inner Circle Trader himself, or I'm a little concerned and maybe he should rethink whether trading is the profession for him. So I go and I watch. He recommended a couple of videos about strategies, so I'm like, okay, let's go and see what he got. And he had this setup that he showed where, you know, he had this move up and it was kind of down like this, and then we had a move up and it went like this and then down like that. And this was like the beginning of the day, you know? So he said, here's a reversal day, so we should expect to see them go for the stops right here. And he says the stops plus 10 ticks and 20 ticks. So there was one like this and then it went down and it went 20 ticks or something like that. And he said, here's the thing. And I tweeted all up beforehand and everything. And I'm just sitting there thinking like, well, okay, it's not like I haven't seen price action that's worked like that, but I've also seen price action, if you could say, that's gone like here, down lower, and then it ends up going higher in the end. You know, and what percentage of the time does that happen versus it doesn't happen, and all that sort of stuff is like, you know, like the thing is it's not just enough to make a call and post the call ahead of time. You have to do it consistently, right? Consistently enough that you're making more money than you're losing on it and on all of that, which means that you have to really look at the long-term stats of the system. And the whole video, he's just making excuses about like why he won't post his broker statements, and this guy just makes so many excuses. I really was like, man, like it's something we've seen before, but this guy is particularly bad. And and he talks about that stuff so much too. So you know that there's must be people out there saying that they don't believe him, right? Well, so I and then he started saying some things in the video that I was like, So one of the things that he said was, he was like, yeah, I haven't met. So then he was starting to go into a mentorship program, right? He's like, oh, I have this mentorship program and like, it's really good. I have a really good relationship with PayPal. I've only had 6 memberships canceled this month. And, you know, I've made them like $94,000 this year, which is like, no, you didn't. Right? Like, how many people are you actually getting on that? And you're making like PayPal is making almost $100,000 a year just off of your mentorship. Like, and then in another video, he was saying that he doesn't make a whole lot from it. You know what I mean? It was just like, you're lying. Like, you're exaggerating and lying, and it's obvious. And he was saying all sorts of things like just spending an inordinate amount of time trying to claim that he can like predict everything and anything. And here I you know, to the tick, everything, I know exactly what's going to happen and stuff. It was like so absolutely ridiculous. Like I was kind of starting to think like, why did he pick this video from 2 years ago as the one to watch? Because it's like the least convincing thing you could have shown me. And especially he's like, I have a good relationship with PayPal. Let me tell you something. If you're really good at what you do, you will have no relationship with PayPal because you're never going to have a situation where somebody is requesting a refund from you because they don't feel like they got what they paid for. Right? Like, and that month, that's concerning because depending on how much the mentorship is, you know, if you are selling a mentorship for like $1,000 and you got like 12 people and 6 of them dropped, that's still, you know, that's still $6,000 a month. That's still more than enough to live on, right? So then I decide to go digging. And apparently this guy has quite the reputation, especially on the Forex subreddit. So like the first thread that I went in, they're like, somebody asked him, what do you guys think about this guy? And like all of the responses are like, stop asking us about this guy. There's a new thread every week. We all think he's full of shit. It's like, and I'm like, wow. So then apparently what happened is this, and this is where I think it's really funny, is he's been bragging to everybody in the Forex world about how great he is and everything. And so they said, okay, then prove it by starting a MyFX book. So MyFX book is a way where you can show it's designed for Forex, but you can post your trades and it will keep track of it and prove that you would have actually taken those trades and everything. And then you can show what your performance is. So he did a MyFX book. And he almost immediately blew the account. Like almost immediately he blew the account. And then he like rage quit and deleted his Twitter and everything else because everybody was harassing him over it. And I'm sitting here like, this is the guy that you're trying to convince me is you should pay it, look at. And of course, what does he teach? Price action. Which again, guys, be careful. Anybody that you see out there pushing price action, be careful, because price action is basically a term that doesn't mean anything. It's like everybody seems to think that price action actually matters, but I don't think that they can all agree on what price action actually is. So yeah, it was funny. And you're all quiet, so I'm thinking, oh man, maybe my story isn't that great, but I was like rolling on the floor reading this shit. I was like, are you kidding me? And this is where I'm like, with all of that, 2 years, like he was showing me videos from 2 years ago. So this guy has been on that channel or been following that channel for since 2017, since basically when we started our stuff, right? And he's lived through all that. Surely he knows all that, right? He either is inner circle trader or he's a really gullible man. Because how can you know all of that stuff and still follow a guy? Now I have price action books to just toss out. Well, so here's the thing, Rob. I've been given one system. Well, somebody showed me stuff from one system. Let's put it that way. And when I looked through their price action trading system, it was essentially support and resistance. But how do you define support and resistance? That's really vague, right? That's going to be chosen differently by every trader. And all of the rules were just like heuristics. He's also claimed he's worth 62 million. Yeah, it's just absolutely ridiculous. I've tried the Jigsaw PA, but it's not that easy. Well, there's kind of this whole thing about when price moves a certain speed and certain strange patterns and stuff that I think have a lot to do with more than just what prices it's traded, but and how quickly it goes through them and stuff that you could call price action. But here again, that's where I'm like everybody defines it differently. That's why when I did our survey about what methods you use and what do you think works and doesn't work, price action was far and away the most popular response. And I believe that the reason that is because everybody has their own definition of price action that they think matters. My mom is worth 62 million. Is she really? Because that's cool if she is. No. Anyways, this price action system, it was all a bunch of heuristics. It was like you don't want to trade on the first bounce of it, and that sort of a thing. Oh, she's worth 62 million to you. Don't tell people that, Ace, because you know what will happen. Well, I'm not going to suggest what's going to happen. Anyways, I just, the whole thing was like, how do I create a backtest for that? It wasn't backtestable, essentially, because it was vague. The way that the rules were set up were essentially, it could mean anything that you wanted. Like, you would have two completely different individuals looking on the same day, and they would always trade it differently. And so it's like, and then the big kicker is that the system was use a stop that's twice as big as your target. So then you got to realize that if your stop is bigger than your target, your ability to determine the actual edge within the signal itself is difficult, because you can't separate out the success of the system from the success that is just generated by taking on the additional risk in a risk premium strategy. That's on Al Brooks. So that's kind of that. I've never read his books. I've watched some of his webinars. He has a good thought, which is that the majority of the action is random, and there's only certain little spots where some sort of an imbalance occurs where something can actually happen. But I'm really question the ability to actually predict those, and I've never seen somebody prove that they're doing well off of a system like that. More to the point, Al Brooks has never shown that he even actually trades, because he refuses to show any of the information. And, well, if you go on tradingschools.org, well, I'll just pull it up and I'll show you. So this is where it's like, I've never read his book, so it's kind of hard for me to say a ton about his system. But when you look at it from just like a product point of view, it's suspicious. So they got 2 stars. And here's what they say. Al Brooks is a charlatan. No track record. Claims to be a full-time professional day trade, yet can provide absolutely zero proof. Trading books are highly subjective, unscientific mumbo-jumbo with no backtesting of trading concepts. Live Trading Room is an exhibition of palm reading, fortune cookie wisdom, crystal ball divination, modernist voodoo, cult leader fanaticism, and Harry Potter magical thinking. The specialist of doublespeak, where the left ear hears the trample of bulls while the right ear simultaneously hears the mauling from bears. A circle jerk waste of time carnival attraction meant to sucker the newbie into believing that an actual wizard is behind the curtain. That's what they said about him. That's somebody that I respect highly, has looked at countless trading systems and rooms and so on and so forth, and that's what they said about them. And I see this a lot, right? Like, I mean, I can just, when we're going through things, I can just kind of see how you can do it, right? Like, if I wasn't actually making trades, right? And I was just pointing things out, and I pretend, and the way that I pointed it out, I pretended like I knew everything and that I knew what was going to happen. I could convince a lot of people that I just know every tiny little move and that I'm a genius. And the issue is that when you're talking to people real time and you're looking at things real time, humans lack the ability to see the bigger picture, to be able to tell if what you're saying actually has edge or not. You can make it seem like there's edge to it when there's really not. The only way that you can do it is by consistently by showing results. And then you have these people that refuse to do it, right? And then you have me that like I've had time periods where I've done really well, but I've had time periods where I've blown out too, right? So can you say, do the things that I do work? Maybe, but it's, I'm certainly not showing you guys some 5-year track record of profitable trades and, I'm the genius. And you're probably really unlikely to see that because the amount of edge out there available for retail traders is really slim. But yeah, you get what I'm saying? And it's just kind of gotten to the point where it's like, you can just kind of tell them, like the way that they talk. There's this really, I don't even know how to put a finger on it, but there's just this salesmanshipy kind of way that these guys talk that is just like an immediate turnoff to me. Yeah, he always makes a case for the longs, a case for the bulls. Then he states that he traded it for profit, both scalps and day swings lying. Yeah, I just don't. There doesn't appear to be any edge in it. And here again is where I'm like, price action is such a vague definition. Like, show me something that we can program and backtest and that it actually works. I don't think that you can. And here's another thing that I will say about it. And it goes to a much deeper problem in the industry. People will say, well, indicators don't work because they're all lagged, and the only thing that is really truth is price action because that's current. But that's false. Because they're almost every system that I'm looking at of that nature, they're using some sort of support and resistance. Like the fact that it's there at that support and resistance or not. And they say, well, that's current because it's there, that thing. But it's not. You're relying on a place that it's been at in the past. You're using past information. The instant that it shows up on your screen, you got to realize it's past information. The currentness of the information is maybe not necessarily the thing. How long is a piece of information actually useful for? A minute? A few seconds? 5 minutes? I don't know. The whole thing, the reason why we created all of these indicators was because the current price of the asset and where it was in relation to other assets back in the 70s when we invented all of these indicators, that wasn't enough. And so we invented the indicators, and then everybody comes in, the indicators are lagged, and so then those don't work. And then they go back to what they were doing before that they had problems with. Isn't that funny? And they've had these, I read this one article from a systems trader that it sounds like they've tested a lot of stuff, and they're like a group of people, and they develop strategies for other people, and they look at like which ones worked and which ones didn't. And the majority of the ones that work were ones that were swing trading, at which point I'm like, okay, but were they actually beating the market? And they don't say. What does work in the futures market? I think that what you want to do, 50 Ghosts, is that where the real money comes from is when you're able to discover an edge that is, like a new thing. Okay. So like when computerized trading first became a thing, there was a lot of edges to be able to pull out because they were able to, figure out all of these tricks with the way that they did their quotes and everything else that you couldn't do before. And there was edge in that. And so a lot of those guys that were there in the early 2000s and late 90s, they made fortunes trading electronically, day trading the stocks and everything because of that situation. Or maybe you were one of the first people, you became the expert in this area that nobody really cared about, and then all of a sudden it was like the only thing that people cared about. Like you were an expert in disease control, right? And then you see this pandemic and you know exactly what's going to happen, and you know exactly how all of the vaccine trials work, and so you know which one is you should be invested in, and you know what I mean? Like that's where like real serious edge is going to come in. So I think that what you want to do is you come in and you're going to continually investigate and try and find every informational asymmetry that you can, which means that you're going to want to learn as much about the market and the instrument that you're trading that you can to try and find those informational asymmetries. And then if you find an informational asymmetry and it may be very short-lived in nature, then you try and take as much advantage of it as you can. And in the meantime, you just want to keep your risk really, really light and realize that most of the time you don't really have edge, and you're just trying to stay in the game as long as you can to increase the chances of you coming across one of those big informational asymmetries that allows you to make millions of dollars, right? Now, the one thing that I will tell you I've seen significant evidence for, and study after study shows affects markets in a predictable way, is news. So I would highly recommend that you get a news squawk, understand as much as you can about the market, wait for a situation where there is news and maybe the market reacts to it but not very strongly, and you know that the consequences of that action are actually more significant than what the market has made off of that initial move, and that the positioning of the market is off in that, so they're going to have to unload and go the other direction. And those can be really really good trades, and I've had a lot of success, especially over the summer, trading that kind of a strategy. But then when the volatility got crazy around the election, that was a little difficult. So does it work? Yes. Can you actually do it all the time? That's tough, right? Seth, did you have a chance to check my question? Which question are you talking about, Red? Oh, wait. I didn't. I missed that one because I was blabbing. You're talking about, do you think you have the knowledge to build a crosshair to work on different platforms? I'm not sure I understand what you mean by that. I think you're going to have to elaborate. Are you saying that there's a crosshair that's on NinjaTrader. Are you saying that you want your mouse to always be a crosshair? Because there's probably some cursor packs that you can get that will change your mouse cursor. 50 Guts says, gotcha. I probably went deeper into that than I needed to, but that's kind of my approach. So I'm watching their positioning, watching the news, and I'm getting an idea of what the current sentiment is. And then, there's a bunch of other little things that I'm watching on the level 2 and where price is and everything to kind of give myself the best chance. And that's how I'm able to get some that really, really run. But you can see that, I have a lot of them that go against me anyways, so. The market microstructure is such. I don't think I understand the market microstructure enough to get the best spots all the time. Here in this situation. Okay, so like right there, they just slipped down 4-6 ticks. Just all at once. So how do I know based on the liquidity that it was much better for me to be bidding down here than it was to be bidding up here? Assuming that I want to go long. I'm not sure I do. Actually, I'm surprised that it's been 7 minutes that we've been open. That was a long rant for 7 minutes to fit into 7 minutes. I ranted about like 3 things there, didn't I? Well, they could continue to move down, but I'm seeing They do look a little overextended here, and they've kind of been trailing sideways for a bit. So I would expect that they will either trail sideways for a bit more or move up and retest that open. But I think on the E-mini, I'm going to say that it's a holiday, and because the open really hasn't been all that interesting either, that I'm going to sit on my hands. I'm going to wait. I need like a wait for a piece of news, some sort of a real significant opportunity to actually trade it. And otherwise, I'm not going to try playing with it or test, because, you know, we got a good trade on the 10-year. I think that was more than enough. So let's practice not trading, huh? For now. Rob says, all good info, Ranso. Thanks. I try hard. You know, the thing that is frustrating is that a lot of the information that I can give you is on things that don't work. You know what I mean? And you feel like you're always and people will bring that up. They're like, well, you talk about, you say this doesn't work and this doesn't work, but what do you think does work? And like, I can go into that too, but it's like, listen, you just got to realize that what we're trying to do is really, really hard. Everybody thinks that it's just, oh, you just learn all this stuff and get the experience in, and then you will understand enough about the market that you'll be able to trade it, and you'll always be successful, and you'll be so consistent that you can make 1% a day, and then that just, you know, builds up. But it doesn't work like that. You know, good example, Ace here. I think he's shown us like 3, and like 2 of them were kind of meh. You know, and maybe it's one of those days where it just doesn't work very well. You're going to notice that when he does really, really well, like he does really, really well, right? It's like there's those days where he catches a runner and he can just let it run all day. And so you make the money in skips and jumps, you know? RJ, well, this is the hardest way to make easy money. Yeah, it's not. There's nothing easy about it. You know, the thing is maybe there was a time when it was. Like if this was the year 1995, then maybe it would be easy money. I don't know. But in our current world, the edge, at least with what we're trying to do, it's really hard. It's really hard. Now, so that's where we just like, we want to be up on the next opportunity. I think that I look at the last 3 years and I see that I missed an opportunity in that there was a huge meteoric shift into options trading because it was made available on Robinhood that we probably could have made money off of. But because of my own risk profile and the amount that I am willing to put up, that wasn't really appropriate for me. But that was probably the most recent case of where, you know, if you were ahead of the curve and really knew everything about options trading, you could have made a lot. You know, Gary's made a lot of money selling options. You have to have a big account to do some of the stuff that he does, but you can see that there's been some edge in it. Will there continue to be edge in it? Oh, I don't know, because the way volatility has been going, that's kind of ruined some things. Do you see this thing? Let me show you this article. Let me see if I can find it on Zero Hedge. I find this really so incredibly interesting because it just kind of confirms a lot of the things that we say. Peak market gamma rises to 3,600. Oh, really? Bill Ackman shorts over 20 billion in credit to hedge the next crash. Wow. It's the roaring 20s again. Yeah, that's what it sure feels like. It's going to be like probably 2 pages back here. they talk about it a little bit in that one, but here we go. 15 Sigma Momentum Massacre. Do you have the know-how to build a crosshair that can sync over different platforms? I don't think so. I mean, I'm not sure I understand what you're talking about, Red, but it kind of sounds like something that's not possible. But I think you'd have to go into a lot more detail. So there's a lot of quantitative strategies that are doing a lot of things about which sectors they're in based off of value stocks and momentum stocks. And in particular, there's this market neutral momentum strategy. Okay. And you can see here that they're circling it, that what was it? Monday was like the single largest drop on that strategy on record. So all of these funds out there that actually trade off of that are, you know, their portfolio weighting is basically based on that strategy, are just getting destroyed. And it's just like, it seems to me like people want to believe that there's some sort of like catch-all where if you just do X thing, you'll always make money, and it just doesn't exist. And this is just like the proof in the pudding is that people will generate ideas that they can get people to invest millions of dollars into, and then end up not working. Like it kind of makes you think like, oh yeah, we've actually had some ideas that you could, you know, like my Bitcoin indicator, even though it's never given another long again, and maybe there's some things that we could do to change it so that it's more sensitive, and we could have taken a long. We could run a hedge fund off of that. We totally could. Except for that, I personally don't want to run a hedge fund off of that because I feel like the whole thing is manipulated. Trading seems a lot more discretionary than people think at first. I think that the people that have been in this game for a long time, that there's a lot of discretion involved. That or they're using a market making algorithm. In which case their edges actually has a lot more to do with how quickly they can get in the queue. Go figure. Oh, really? He had a case with the SEC? Really? I see Advisors Inner Circle Fund. I don't think that's it. I think you would have to find us a link or something. The whole thing just seems like a pretty obvious. Yeah. Pretty obvious scheme. That's where I want to be really clear to you guys, because I think that sometimes when new people come in that they don't 100% understand where I'm coming from and everything. I make absolutely no performance claims. I've had periods where I've done well. I have periods where I do really poorly. I'm not coming in and claiming that I have some sort of edge that everybody should be following. If I had some sort of an edge like that, I don't think I would necessarily be giving it to everyone. I can explain to you the way that I do things and the things that I know and I think, or that I think I know, and I can give you the tools that I've built for myself that there is some useful to it, usefulness to it because it is showing you information that you otherwise don't have. But that in and of itself isn't going to make you a profitable trader. It can help. It could potentially help. And I do have one guy that's doing it, and he's shown me some trades that he's made off of that indicator that I'm really quite impressed with. Like, wow. He's been trading that late day bounce really, really well. Nate Silver says, I've never seen a party so miserable after it just won a presidential election. Referring to John Weisenthal, the Democrats won that White House, the Congress, and have a shot of flipping the Senate. It was a disastrous night. It was, though. Like, considering the number of seats that Republicans had up for grabs, that the Republicans had to defend, and for the Democrats to not get it, really was a poor showing. And I think the reason why it's particularly so disheartening for Democrats is because they invested so much money into places where they really had literally no chance because they were being lied to from polling. There's still a good amount of discretion in most market-making strategies. I spend a ton of time and effort trying to decide if events/auction fall outside of the model. Really? It's going to get worse for them. Trump has turned the White House into the Alamo. I don't know, man. I'm watching all this stuff. Apparently, Giuliani says that they're going to be filing a bunch of affidavits and court claims today. So we should be able to get to read a lot more of the witness testimony. So one of the things that I've been seeing is like, oh, there's this guy and he says that he was blocked from being able to view the poll watching. And then they come out and they say, oh, this guy was a pedophile. And it's like the same old kind of like shoot the messenger sort of a thing. But I just there's like 80 more people, so but will the courts actually rule in their favor, and will it be enough votes? That's a lot. It just seems like a really big pull. So I don't know. I keep saying to myself, Seth, you really don't know how likely that is to happen or not happen. I have to just keep reminding myself, because when I look at it, it seems like there's no way. You stand less of a chance making money without level 1 and level 2. How Inner can make money with candlesticks alone, how do you know? Where liquidity is taken or given is beyond me. And I think the reality is that it's not. RJ Will, it's not about voter fraud, it's about stalling the process to block certifications. Then it gets interesting. But don't you think that, they have a little bit over a month? You don't think that can get all the way through the system? I think at the very least, the one with Pennsylvania should be able to go before the Supreme Court before then, right? If he gets the election invalidated, the selection of president goes to the Congress. That's what he wants. Oh, I don't know about that one. Because the Democrats will choose it, right? You want to give the selects the next president up to Nancy Pelosi? That's only happened twice in American history, by the way. And the two times that I think it happened, that wasn't even close to the end of the story. The person that they, like that happened to Andrew Jackson the first time, right? There's a 3-way tie, and so it went to the House, and they didn't give it to the guy that really should have won. And then everybody got pissed, and they elected Andrew Jackson the next time around with like one of the largest margins in history. I'm pulling my AP US history like digging real deep there, so we should probably double check all that, but that's my recollection of the history. No, Congress is then divided into state delegations. Each state then gets one vote. Okay. Well, that's interesting. But I'm really not sure that they can get it to that. What does it take to take it to that point? Because wouldn't you have to prove that nationwide systemic fraud? Why wouldn't the Supreme Court just rule that that one state's results are invalidated, or this specific group of ballots are invalidated? You know what I mean? I think that case is really unlikely. I've seen people on the Donald talking about it, but I don't know, man. There's a thing as a political watcher, the election fraud thing is kind of getting annoying to me. Election was fraud. If the electors can't be seated, then it goes okay. It's kind of annoying to me just because, like, everywhere that I go, it's like they're hammering on the same thing over and over again, and it's like, this is like old information. You know what I mean? And I'm like ready to talk about the other stuff. I'm ready to talk about, like, okay, what are Republicans going to do about the runoff election in January and the really ugly map that they have for the Senate in 2022? And what is Donald Trump going to do in the next 4 years? And is he going to run again in 2024? And if he doesn't run again in 2024, then what's the direction that you go there? And will establishment Republicans be able to take things over again, or at least, trick enough people into believing that they're on their side? Or will another, real outside warrior emerge that's maybe, just as, well, pretty close to Trump, but maybe is even more effective? It's just like, and I feel that Republicans are in a key. Okay, so this is a pretty good down move there in the mini. I feel that the Republicans are at a key inflection point. Like let's call it the MAGA movement has made a huge impact on Republicans, and it's very much a self-isolated thing. Like, there's nowhere on the news that you can go to get this. Tucker Carlson maybe, and he's like really upset at his network, like even Fox is kind of doing some things that world, and frankly I don't think that they should be doing either, but I digress. Not important. How do you get all of these people to stay in it? Like, you keep them voting, keep them engaged in trying to take over the party. And instead of thinking about those things right now, they're 100% focused on the fraud thing. And I'm not too sure that they're really digging up new stuff or not. I saw something yesterday where they were like, they went through some data and they were saying these are the spots where the algorithm was flipping votes. And I'm like, well, that, you're making a lot of assumptions. It would be worth investigating, but you'd have to know a lot more about the system and how it gets you the data that they have, right? I mean, using Ninja and say using a different platform for level 2, do you think you could build a crosshair that would line up over both platforms? Probably not. Unless you're going to use a custom mouse that's like a really big or something, which is probably something that's possible. I would look for custom crosshair that covers the whole screen. Let's see here, RJ. I watched on Saturday night Biden's speech. 1 out of 3 Democrats had tears in their eyes. They want. Well, this the thing that I find so funny is that the Democrats seem easily manipulated. Like, you're crying for Joe Biden? Like, come on. But I think it's the theatrics. I think that they believe that media messaging means everything. And I really don't think it does. it's really, and I mean, it really is like acting. like think about it. Why did all of those Biden supporters go out to Times Square and watch it and everything? You know why they did it? Because they know that they're going to get on TV and they want everybody to see it. It's the only reason. Probably a lot of those people think that Biden is a complete effing idiot and wanted Bernie Sanders. But they know the effect that having it on TV has. And that's where it's like, you know, there's always like this. Hillary Clinton in September told Biden in no terms to concede to Trump. Yeah. Like the thing is there's always kind of this insinuation of an invisible hand, you know, that there's these big globalist leaders and they're in control of everything and they're planning all this. It's all Soros's dealings and so on and so forth. But I think that what the whole fraud episode exposes is that Americans are much more informed about what is going on in politics because of the internet. And because of that, they themselves are actively participating in the process of manipulating the public, manipulating themselves. And so it's not really one super rich guy controlling everything. It's really just kind of like the behavior of the mob that they all kind of get together. You know, they just know from the situation, a lot of them come to the same conclusion that they should commit voter fraud, you know? And so you get this widespread voter fraud without any actual direct coordination. They're just saying, oh, well, I could register my dead father to vote. I can go and I can use my maiden name to vote twice, you know, and enough people know what's going on to think of doing these things. And then you have Donald Trump out there yapping about it every day for 4 years. And of course, a lot of Democrats are going to do it. They were given the idea to do it by Donald Trump. You say the Department of Justice is going to delay with investigations. I don't know. Sounds really unlikely. So now tell me, is it the situation that like if there's any kind of outstanding court challenge by the time that the electors are supposed to be seated that it goes to Congress? Or can they just delay that? So I am kind of starting to feel like, shouldn't it? Oh, look, CNN projection, Donald Trump will win Alaska. Fine. Why did that one take so long? Man. RTY now up 2.6%. Best few days of performance for the Russell since Gladiator. Yeah, and you notice the mini is still struggling. They're down. It's not awful. They're incredibly range bound. I think that we could have taken a good 5 to 10 points on a short, but probably you should be taking your profits. He says it can't be delayed. Okay, well, we'll see how far it gets. I mean, if it happens just because there's court cases are still ongoing, and not because, you know, a court made a ruling about something, that sounds like a really bad scenario. That sounds like a scenario that's going to cause a lot of trouble. You can't reseat Donald Trump off of a maneuver like that, man. That would cause a lot of. Yeah, I don't like that idea. Sounds like a bad idea. Well, you know what? I took my treasury trade off at, where was it? It's not here. At 16. Oh, wait, I took it off at 16? No. I took it off at 15 and a half. And it's still there at 15 and a half, so I think I made the right decision. Okay, well, it's about time for me to get some more water, so I'm going to do that, all right? I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Let's see here. Yeah, it really is. You know, a lot of the time when there's been off holidays like this, it's a little bit quieter, but like there's still a lot of trade, and there's even been some times where like big things happen on those days. But I'm watching the E-mini and I'm like, well, I think I probably could have made some money off of some trades, but I'm really, really weary about it. And I feel a lot better about having just not trying to touch the E-mini right now, you know? I know that's super boring for you guys, but Trump and a lot of Republicans believe 100% that massive cheating is involved. Yeah. But if that's what you believe, it should be settled by a court, not by the House. If Trump doesn't concede, the Speaker of the House becomes... No, I think that doesn't happen unless we come back to the inauguration, right? I mean, Trump is president until the inauguration. In fact, there's been a couple of things that the campaign has done that they kind of suggest to me that they realize that it's not going to change anything, but that they still feel it's their obligation to fight as hard as they can to prevent fraud in the future. Number 12, concessions are tradition, not legal. Yeah. If no one is certified after inauguration day, Nancy is president. Yeah, there you go. It says right in the greats. Welcome back, by the way. I don't know. But here's the thing. You're all talking about it. Like, you really think that that's the way it's going to go, though? You know, because that's where I'm kind of coming from, is like, I think that it's far more likely that the Pennsylvania case goes to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court decides that all mail-in ballots received after 8 o'clock are invalid, and that result is perhaps overturned on that basis. And then in Michigan, these tabulation errors from this software is enough to flip people, and then maybe that's enough to put them over the edge. I think that's way more likely. Do you not agree? What do you think about that? Like, it sounds like a lot of people are enamored with this scenario that is like way less likely. This is something I see a lot, actually. So, like, with conspiracy theories, like the Q conspiracy theory, so a lot of Q conspiracy people are having a hard time with this because, all of the things that they've said, there's no way Donald Trump would lose, or there were things that would have already happened by now, that sort of a thing. I think Trump will lose before the Supreme Court. Oh, that's interesting. Trump can only go to the Supreme Court with Pennsylvania, and that isn't enough to win. I'm not sure. I think that they will prevail at the Supreme Court, actually. I don't think that they will get I don't think that what is the word? I think that they will rule that what the Pennsylvania Supreme Court did was unconstitutional, but I don't think that the remedy that the court will prescribe will be what they want. Yes, we're going to the 12th Amendment. They're clogging the system with hundreds of claims and affidavits of fraud. The Department of Justice can easily delay. But if that would work, if that works, what would stop you from just always putting in court, cases just before the electors come in and trying to do that every election? I don't think so. I think that you would have to have a ruling that the electors can't go forward, right? So I don't think that you can I don't think that there's some check where they say, okay, before they can meet, we have to make sure there aren't any outstanding court challenges. I don't think it works that way. It's otherwise that would be happening all the time. So it must be the opposite. It must be that they would have to get a court order to prevent the electors from meeting. And that would probably have to go to the Supreme Court, which means that then they would have to resolve the issue anyways. Okay, so Ryan says if 100% of people voted Republicans would never win, Republicans don't want everyone to vote. That's probably true, Ryan. I personally don't want everybody to vote. I think that Democrats go after low information voters. Yeah, Sunday says the voters in a normal election won't trigger this response. Republican voters will back this. I'm just saying, like, when you go through with the process, I don't. How does that work? You're gonna stop them, like, the electors from meeting. There's the thing is, if that's the way that it works, then here's what's gonna happen: is there's gonna be a bunch of outstanding court cases, and Donald Trump is gonna say that the electors shouldn't be meeting because of the outstanding court cases, and the electors are going to go and meet anyways. And they will go and they will certify Joe Biden as president. And how are you going to stop them, right? So I think if you're Donald Trump, then what you're looking for is a court ruling to prevent the electors from meeting. Bot says, questions this quote that Democrats go after low information voters. 100%. Democrats go after low information voters. They do. 100%. Look at the strategies that they use. One of the Democrats' favorite strategies is to have their candidate on, like talk shows, popular TV shows, endorsed by musicians, whoever is famous at the time. Like this whole thing with Cardi B promoting Joe Biden and all of that stuff. And why do they do that? Because they're trying to reach voters that otherwise don't care about politics. There is a significant portion of voters that voted for Joe Biden that don't know anything about his platform, don't have a clue like what his tax plan was or any of that stuff. And this isn't just me like hypothecating. There's a lot of studies that have shown this. There's a number of studies that they've gone through, and they're asking voters questions about things, and they've shown that the Republicans actually are better informed about it, and more important, even more proven that Republicans understand what Democrats believe better than Democrats understand what Republicans believe. And you're getting these wide swaths of, like the inner city, right? So again, you're talking about the people, it's like those, middle class, educated white people that are the ones that are reading the newspaper every day and care about this stuff. Those voters like in the inner city and stuff, they don't follow that stuff. No way. And they tend to vote Democrat. So yeah, the Democrats do target low information voters more than the GOP does. The Republicans, they kind of go after more of this other thing, like because the Republicans at this time believe much more strongly than Democrats, at least, which wasn't always the case, but they believe much more strongly in freedom of information and things like that. The Republicans there's this whole thing going on about, is there misinformation or not? But the issue I see there is that like there's like confirmed information, and then there's opinion, and there's a lot of things that are opinions that people are claiming are not opinions. Most of these young people think everything will be perfect. Yeah. No, I totally agree with you, RJ. Well, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be red-pilled by what they're going to see from the Democrats here in a bit. The issue is always going to be, though, that there's going to be some sort of a political battle over something, and the Democrats are going to claim that it's all the Republicans in the Senate's fault. Right? That's always what it comes down to, doesn't it? There's some sort of impasse about passing the budget, and regardless of who's president and who controls the Senate and who controls the House, because I think we've had every single combination of those at this point, somehow it's always the Republicans' fault. That's always what people come out with. Less than 25% of Americans think Trump won. Now that's interesting. Where did you get that one? I don't see that one. At least it doesn't come up on a quick search. That's why Biden hopes Georgia will vote in the GOP senators. You might be right. RJ will. Because here's the thing. I don't think that Biden is on board with the radical left agenda. I think that he just gives it, he says what he has to, and then I don't think he has to do that. Tommy Lawrenson says, I've made a points system trading. So lie agent is something I've never heard of before, but if you can send me a strategy, I would love to look at it. One of the things that I've been thinking about a lot is that you will get people will say, oh, I do this X thing and it works. And I believe that a lot of them don't have a sophisticated enough analysis to really realize what they're trading, like how successful it actually is. Okay, Reuters Ipsos poll, nearly 80% of Americans say Biden won the White House. Yeah, probably. Well, I don't know about that part. So the question that I would want to see is, should Trump concede today? Now, should Trump have conceded by now? That would be a different question, because there's also this polling out showing that 70% of Republicans don't feel that the election was free or fair. So it seems to me that the majority of Americans are coming to the same conclusion that I am, which is that there is some degree of fraud, and maybe even pretty widespread fraud, but that it's probably not going to change the results of the election. That's what it seems like most people are concluding right now. There's maybe some polling evidence for that, but I wouldn't hold that claim to be the gospel truth. Not free or fair doesn't mean fraud. I mean, I guess you're right in that for the purpose of polling, you would really want to have to use the word fraud. But I think it's kind of a given that they would think that the reason it wasn't free or fair was because there was fraud. But I don't know. I think you're kind of splitting hairs on the why would that matter? I guess going back to the point at which it matters, which is that if it turned into because Donald Trump has an outstanding court case that they can't seat the electors, and then the election goes to the House of Representatives and they pick Donald Trump, like, people aren't gonna go along with that, man. Sorry, there's no way. People forget Democrats in 2004 were convinced Republicans fixed the Ohio voting machines. This is why. Yeah. No, you totally. Yeah. Argue well. Here's the thing that I just think is so weird about it is that you can't come in and claim that the system is secure. It's like, it just straight up isn't. There are too many instances where we can show that you can defraud the system. And the question is it's just a matter of like enough people deciding to go in and do it. And especially when it comes to vote by mail, because if you accept votes up to 3 days, all that means is you just have to be able to get ballots. If you have ballots and you can mail in as many as you want. And they were saying that they weren't even like checking names and stuff on some of them. Like, I'm just... Can you commit fraud under the current system? Yes. And anybody says that that's not true is not being honest, to be frank. So if that's the case, why don't we do things to make it more secure? And anytime that you want to make something more secure, the Democrats don't want to be in on it. But then even the Democrats at times have claimed that there's problems. And I remember that too, where Democrats were saying that George Bush was manipulating the election the results. That the same thing the Republicans are saying right now, that the voting software was changing votes. Why weren't you asking for more election security in 2016? I've been asking for more election security in Utah specifically ever since they instituted universal mail-in voting. When was that? That's been like over 10 years, man. It's been a long time. Mm-hmm. 2018, they did same-day registration and opt-ins. It's been a long time. But I can go back and I can show you. This is something I remember. I remember specifically when I did my first set of caucuses, and that was back when Mia Love ran and won. So that was like 3 elections ago, and we were all complaining about the mail-in voting, and I've refused to do it. I've gone and I've filled out the ballot and then dropped it off at the box, but I refuse to mail it. And it's not necessarily something that I would be talking a lot about a ton on the stream because it's not really relevant most of the time, I guess, but it's something that's bothered me for a long time. Well, there you go. Trump had 4 years to fix it. He tried. Don't you remember when he went and he set up an election commission to try and do an audit to prove how much fraud there was, because he believed that illegals were voting in California and so forth, and that was costing him the popular vote. And he set up this whole election commission, and then a bunch of states, and what do you know, it's all of the states that we're having problems with right now, all refused to give them the information. And because they couldn't get the information, they eventually just gave up and, got rid of the commission. Don't you remember? I mean, they've been complaining about this. They were complaining about this before he got elected because they thought that they were going to use fraud to steal it from him last time too. So I really don't think you can say that like he didn't do anything. I mean, he did everything that he could. But when you have one party that doesn't really want the election to be secure, you're not going to get very far. You don't like mail-in voting because it makes it easier for busy people to vote. I think that anybody can vote, even if they're busy. Assuming that your local county, and this is a county thing, by the way, just to let you know, if you go to vote on voting day and you have to wait in a big long line, that is your county's fault. And you should do something about it, because nobody should have to wait more than 5 minutes to vote. And there are laws that say that they're supposed to give you a certain amount of time on election day to vote. It's like a federal law. So there's literally no excuse to not go and vote in person, other than, and it's not that people are too busy. It's that it's just not a high enough priority for them. And yes, those people that they can't be bothered, or they'll forget to vote on election day, but if they can fill it out at home and then put it in the mail, those are the ones that actually end up voting. I don't believe that they know enough about what is going on to really be voting. And this is another thing, is that everybody says that it's like your patriotic duty to vote. I think that it's your patriotic duty to be informed and to vote. But if you're failing your patriotic duty to be informed, I don't think that you should vote. If I can bank over the internet, I should be able to vote over the internet. I think that I'm making a more controversial claim there, right? Let's go to the center of my claim. Not everybody should vote. because not everybody's informed. This is the key weakness in democracy is not being informed, is a voting public that is not really actually informed. Right. This is why we don't have pure democracies where we vote on every tiny little thing. Right. We have representatives because the reason we have representatives is because the representative can become an expert, and we have all of this whole industry of people to push laws to them, to teach them about what the consequences of the law are. And there's problems with that, of course, but I'm just saying, like, the whole point of having a representative is to have somebody that knows what's going on. And every representative that I've ever spoken to knows more about the specific issues and the specific laws than I do, because they're lawyers and they deal with the actual laws. And that's why lawyers tend to make good politicians, right? That's why we have a representative government, but it's not, a complete solution. The biggest fault with democracy is when the voters are not informed. And if somebody is not informed, I don't think they should vote. Are we a lot smarter since the 18th century? I'm not so sure about that one, actually, to be honest with you. Who are you to say who's a low information voter? Well, I'm not saying who is or isn't necessarily, other than that in general, they tend to vote a certain way based off of the data that we have. Like, seriously, if you think that Bernie Sanders is going to give you all of this free stuff, you're probably a low information voter. There should be qualifiers for voting. Well, that's the funny thing, is there used to be, right? There used to be like literacy polls where, well, part of it was that you had to be able to read, but there also was like, you have to be able to answer certain questions before you could, on the test, before you could vote. And that would be considered illegal because that would be disenfranchising voters. And that's correct. I mean, that's the way that the law is, and it should be. And that's where I'm just saying, like, I think that the culture should be that you need to be informed to vote. And I think that politicians push everybody should vote because, of course, they want as many people to vote for them as possible. But if we were really responsible, we would say you need to be informed if you're going to vote, and we're going to inform you. Wow, what surprise, surprise. Some politicians don't actually want you to be informed. Weighted voting mechanisms. Well, the issue is, like, you get this thing like, okay, only landowners should be able to vote. That was a qualifier that they had in place a long time ago. But there's issues with that, right? Because there's a lot of people that don't own land, and they had absolutely no say in the government, and they were being systemically oppressed and kept down and kept in poverty, by the elites that held the land. So to come in and to say, these certain rules, there's real problems with that. I don't think you want to go down that route. I think the best that you can do is you can tell people you're supposed to be informed. And there should be a group of people out there that say, you know what? I don't really care about politics. I don't read the news. I don't know who the candidates are. I don't know what their policies are. I don't know what is good policy and bad policy. I shouldn't vote. Republics are designed to help the merchant class, not the people. I mean, isn't everybody kind of the merchant class these days? It's starting to go that way. I feel it's starting to go that way. I mean, at some point, what do you think of ranked choice voting? There's some real problems with ranked choice voting. Let me put it this way. Whenever you see somebody promoting a certain voting system, what it really means is there's a certain candidate that they think should be winning and isn't winning. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't have a good point, right? It doesn't mean that I don't have a good point that you should be informed if you're going to vote. And yeah, that's going to favor Republicans. And so, of course, that's why I support it. But why are these people pushing for ranked choice? And for Republicans out there, I would just say, be careful, because it's either that they think that their third party candidate is going to get in, which is unlikely, or B, it's because it favors Democrats. Usually it does. And this is the issue with I have with third parties. When you look at the way that third parties go in most other countries, it favors socialists. It does. The two-party system is the reason why in the United States you never got a super strong socialist movement. You don't have to tell us that you're going good, John. It's okay. If you don't want to listen to politics, that's okay. You're just trying to, I feel like you're trying to make me feel bad, and I don't feel bad about talking about it. Even though I appreciate you being around. Let's see here. What is Mohammed El Arain saying? This from CNBC illustrates central banks aren't ready to ease their foot off of the liquidity pedal. Indeed, the signals from the ECB, Federal Reserve, and the Bank of England are consistent. It's still a bumpy road to a vaccine, and they intend to push harder on the pedal. What is this from CNBC? European Central Bank President Christine Lagarde cautioned Wednesday against an immediate economic impact from a COVID-19 vaccine, while also giving more details about what the central bank is likely to do next. While the latest news on the vaccine looks encouraging, we could still face recurring cycles of accelerating viral spread and tightening restrictions until widespread immunity is achieved, Lagarde said at the ECB forum on central banking. So the recovery may not be linear, but rather unsteady, stop-start, and contingent on the pace of a vaccine rollout. The European Central Bank hinted last month at further monetary stimulus before the year ends. At the time, the central bank has kept policy unchanged, but said there could be a recalibration in December based on upcoming data. Speaking Wednesday, Lagarde suggested that the central bank is likely to cut borrowing costs for banks further, as well as adjusting its pandemic-related asset purchase program. In the weeks to come, we will have more information on which to base our decision about this recalibration, including more evidence on the success of the new lockdown measures in containing the virus, a new set of macroeconomic projections, and more clarity on fiscal plans. Okay, Georgia is set to announce a hand recount of votes. So they're going to get it. You know what? The problem with the hand recount is that then you're going to say, yes, but there was votes turned in earlier that were fraudulent or whatever. But this would at the very least remove any questions about the vote tabulating software being incorrect. So that's good. What if everybody was informed and voted and still Dems always won? Would you then say they aren't informed if they let Dems win? Yeah, so I think that if everybody was informed, that probably you would still have Democrats win a lot of the time, actually. If everybody was informed, and the big caveat is they would have to be informed in primaries too. But if everybody was informed, probably Democrats would win a lot. But it would be more of the Democrat Party of JFK and Clinton rather than the Democrat Party of AOC and Bernie Sanders. You get where I'm kind of saying? Like, I feel that a lot of politicians are able to kind of slip things in there because people don't really know what's going on. Otherwise, how do you get this sort of a thing where Joe Biden can say, I don't support the New Deal, and then on his website it says, we support the New Deal? Like, come on. Anybody that's paying attention knows that they're pushing that. And how many people voted for Joe Biden and didn't know that in Pennsylvania? I wonder. I wonder. I don't think we have any way of knowing, but that's the sort of a thing that where I'm like, I feel like, you know, democracy gets screwed up. But if everybody was well informed, then that stuff wouldn't even make it to the general election, right? They would pick the right person in the primaries. RJ says, I agree with making election day a national holiday. Well, I'm not opposed to making it a national holiday, but I don't think it would solve the problem because there'd still be people that would have to work on it as a national holiday. Now, the consequence on that one is, now this one is kind of interesting. Democrats want the election day to be a national holiday because they want to be able to go out and knock on doors that day, is what that really comes down to. Like I said, there's if your county is doing its job and creates enough polling places, there should be no reason that everybody can't take 30 minutes out and vote on election day. But if you're able to take the whole day off, then you can spend the whole day knocking on doors, driving people around, and getting all of your people to the polls. And that's the main reason that they want to do it. Now, is that really a problem? I don't feel like that is, because the Republicans can do that too, and the Republicans are really good at it. Republicans did a better job at it this election than the Democrats did, in my opinion. Biden only supports part of the Green Deal from my socials. Well, there you go. I mean, that's the thing that's funny is that he's just been he tried to play it both ways. And he did that on so many issues. He knows that his base wants the Green New Deal, but he knows that it's toxic in the general election. So he tells them that he supports the Green New Deal when he's in the primaries, and he turns around in the general and he says that he doesn't. I mean, and then when they fact check it, they say, well, actually, because, you know, it's the game, I guess. More people voting is always better because it leads to less corruption if they know more than half the people. I don't know how you can say that. I think that if you want to avoid corruption, that you need to have a more educated voting populace. And you probably have to have some big law changes at the federal level. That would frankly be in direct conflict with the senator's own interests. So I'm not sure you'll ever see it. What is sad to me is that the media and others are trying to make the masses think that being a Republican is so nasty, but let's talk about the principles we stand for, such as overall freedoms. Well, there really is a very strong misrepresentation of what people's positions are, isn't there? It's the thing that I think is so weird, is like, if you're a Republican and you think that it's important to have border security laws that are enforced, you're like an awful person. But then if you're a Democrat and you're a socialist and you're advocating for eating the rich, that's okay. Or at the very least, we just don't talk about it. It's just like, okay. one of the most influential things that drove my own view of the media and the way that I'm able to interpret media and call out when they're saying something, when something's going to get walked back, because we've made some good trades off of that in the past, right? Was during the Obama years, because it's like I would go on Reddit or Dig at the time, and I would read it, and I would just say, I would know what was going on, and I would, oh, hold on, the way that they're presenting this isn't true. There's this one piece of information that makes that headline false, but they put that at the back of the article, and nobody reads that part. It's the sort of thing, and it's just like day after day after day after day, and the thing that's alarming to me is that it just gets worse. It just gets worse. Jack says, "Do you realize not all Democrats are socialists?" I do realize that, Jack. Here's the problem, though, is that what has happened is the socialists have really taken over the party. So if you are a Democrat and you say, I'm a Democrat, but I'm not a socialist, then here's the thing that I would say to you. You realize what these people in your party are trying to do and believe, right? Like the kind of Black Lives Matters intersectionality theory group of people, the woke left, they're not liberal at all. There's nothing liberal about the way that they think. They literally don't believe in freedom of speech. Like, these people, if you allowed them to remake the Constitution, they would change the Constitution so that we didn't have freedom of speech as we think of it today. And it's straight up, you've been listening. No, I listen to them. I listen to the people that are actually saying this stuff. I spend a lot of time reading what people from Black Lives Matters and far left circles say. Reading late stage capitalism is a pastime of mine. Okay? Like, I find it funny when they say, this isn't what people actually believe. This is just what Republicans say they believe. No, I read it on Reddit every day, guys. And I'm telling you, because I don't think that the liberals in the Democrat Party realize, okay, these people don't believe what you do. If you are a JFK Clinton Democrat, you have to realize that the woke left is diametrically opposed to some of the most dearly held values that you have, and they are trying to sneak it into your party underneath of your nose, and everybody is just kind of in la la land, not realizing what's going on, because they don't want to be, they don't want to be thought of as a bad person, because the whole thing has turned into, if you don't fully support movement X or thing Y, then you're a fascist, is what it's turned into. And so the Democrats don't question it. But the reality is that the Democrats need to take their party back. Things would be a lot better in this country if they got rid of Nancy Pelosi. They said to the woke left, get out of here, and they went back to the way that things were under Clinton, because Clinton was a great president. And he did a really good job, especially economically. And caring about rights is something that's really important that I feel Republicans claim to believe, but all so often don't actually follow through with when push comes to shove. And I think about, because, man, I remember during the Iraq War, I mean, you just kind of hit on the big thing that's like, this is my life, guys. I remember when it was, are we going to get into the Iraq War? And I remember the great discourse over whether or not we should go into Iraq. And I felt like that was like the greatest debate of all time. The debates that I see today just seem so childish compared to the thing in Iraq. There was so much information. I learned so much, and there's so many different things, and people saying stuff about the intelligence and stuff that was like just went so deep, and not just the intelligence, but like the strategic value of doing it or not doing it and everything else like that. And the Republicans wanted to go in, mostly because George Bush wanted to do it. I don't think that it was necessarily in line with what Republican values really were. But, you know, there was Democrats. They were there. They were opposed to going into the Iraq war. There were Democrats that were there that were opposed to the Patriot Act, even though there was a large portion of the Democrat Party that just kind of like fell over, right? There's this thing. There's like this systemic problem in America where and it's like the establishment Democrats, when they get together with the neocons, those are the things that I think you should be really concerned about. Like, seriously. And what is our best defense against those? Liberals. Democrat liberals. And what is happening? Democrat liberals are losing control of the party, and it is going towards the socialists. You have to fight back. I could vote for a Democrat liberal in the right situation, but I can't vote for AOC. You know what I mean? Was Obama not a great president? I think that Obama in general, so this one's kind of interesting. I think that overall Obama was mostly just a mediocre president that didn't really rock the boat a whole lot, but was always kind of sticking little things in there. But here's the thing. You got to go back. I believe that Nancy Pelosi is the problem. Let's go back, redo the Obama years. Nancy Pelosi isn't Speaker of the House. And replay that one. And I think that maybe we'd get a better result. Maybe. But, you know, like the one major actual law that got passed under Obama, his crowning achievement was Obamacare. Absolute disaster. Absolute disaster. Right, we've gotten so far away from principles and policies, it has become so manipulated at House. And that's where the whole thing about like the uniparty, I always was like, that's just conspiracy nonsense. But it really resonates with me today, because there are these people in the Democrat Party, and they get together with these guys in the Republican Party, and they very clearly don't actually believe any of the stuff that they tell us to get elected. And they're like one in the same. They're both sides of the two sides of the same coin. And when I see guys like Bolton going out, and frankly, Biden has been a part of that coalition. If Joe Biden starts a war, then that's really when people are going to start being like, because what's going to happen is it's going to go back to that fault line that we remember. The older generation, those of us that are in our 30s and 40s, we remember the whole Iraq war thing starting. And I think that most of us regret it. I was in favor of the Iraq war. I regret it. And if Joe Biden goes in and starts a conflict in the same kind of manner, that's when people are really going to start saying, hold up, there's something wrong here. You people have been doing all this stuff and manipulating us. Let's see here. Nothing wrong about BLM. 96% of the protests were peaceful. Okay, so first of all, when you're literally burning down whole districts and the amount of violence, come on, like BLM has basically bullied the nation over the whole summer. The amount of protests out there that were actually peaceful, irrelevant. Okay, so that's the first thing. Second thing is that the whole thing that it was based off was kind of nonsense. That guy was going to die anyways. Man, I don't want to go too deep into that, but the reaction was not justified based off of what actually happened. Okay, and three. This is again the exact thing that I'm talking about, is that what's happening is radicals are hijacking the party. And what you're saying is, in your defense, is, well, most of us don't actually believe that part. Okay, sure. Then why are you giving the people that do believe that all the power? Okay, the people that founded the Black Lives Matters national organization do believe that. The people that founded the Black Lives Matters national organization says that they are trained Marxists, right? So if you're supporting that movement and frankly giving them money through Share Blue, how can you not say that that's your party now? There is systemic race. I would say yes, but propose a law on that thing. Propose a law. Otherwise, it's kind of like, what are you gonna do? Yeah, socialism has never been the answer. Well, it's not even socialism that's so much the problem as it is government power, right? Obama inherited the financial crisis and fixed it. Totally wrong. Absolutely not true. None of the... So if you really go back and look at the specific laws and things that they created from that law to address the financial crisis, you'll notice that every single one of the programs that they proposed and they set up for the financial crisis failed. Cash for clunkers as an example. It seemed really good at the time, and a lot of stocks moved up off of it because there was all this stimulus money coming in. And then in the end, what did we find? All they did was they pulled forward growth, and then there was less sales after that, and it all came out to be equal. And none of those policies that they did actually worked. The only thing that really actually worked was the central bank injecting liquidity into the system, doing quantitative easing, so on and so forth. In fact, when you look at it, especially the regulations that Obama put in place and so forth, I think that there's a really strong argument to say that Obama slowed growth and made the recovery weaker than it could have been. To say that Obama solved the financial crisis is just silly. It's going to be the same thing as, like, if we have a good recovery off of this pandemic, everybody's going to say that Joe Biden was the one that fixed the economy, even though, like, at this point, if that's really the trajectory that it goes, then can't you say that it's already recovered? So then it wasn't that Donald Trump anyways. The Dodd-Frank reform did more harm than good in many cases, yes. There are some things in there that needed to happen, though. Like this whole thing about, like, there needs to be a fund out there that in order to deal with the chaos, if there is a systemic failure, that was something that was needed, for instance. But there was also other things like this freaking Volcker rule was just terrible. It's only right-wing groups that end up murdering peaceful protesters. Yeah, sorry. There was a man murdered by leftist protesters in Portland. There was a man murdered by leftist protesters in Denver. There was a man murdered by leftist protesters in, where was it? There was another area. It was in the Midwest. Was it, I don't remember. And then the one instance that you're talking about was the most clear and obvious case of self-defense that I've ever seen in my life, and that kid's going to get cleared. Maybe Donald Trump will pardon him. That would be... I would rather see him go to court and be cleared, though, because it was self-defense and so obvious. And frankly, if you don't see that what Kyle did was self-defense... you're not seeing reality clearly, man. You need to go back and look at that story and watch all of the videos and all of the information that they've put out. The police report on the matter and the information that's been filed by Kyle's attorneys. It's so obvious that it was fair for self-defense. And that's the one case where you said that he ended up murdering peaceful protesters. They weren't peaceful protesters. They were trying to murder him. So yeah, that's I'm going to rate that claim pants on fire. You brainwash fool. No, sorry, dude. You're so objectively wrong. Well, just because you're on trial doesn't mean that it's proven that you did something wrong. He's going to go to trial and he's going to get off scot-free, dude. I can almost guarantee it. I tell you, when that happens, he's not going to jail. You watch. I'd bet you $500 that he doesn't go to jail. Or at least let me rephrase that. I bet you $500 that Kyle will not be convicted of murder in any degree. You think we can go back to a time when we were not so divided and polarized? I feel like we are headed towards cataclysmic doom if we keep going so extreme. Well, there will be at some point. So the thing is that what's happening right now, well, let's go back. Don't you think, what do you think people were thinking when the printing press was first invented? Oh, that thing took an exit way too quickly. I shouldn't have done that. And it went in twice. Well, there's an issue with that strategy. I need to work on it. I didn't say some people don't deserve to vote. I said some people shouldn't vote. It's up to you. Here's the thing is like, I'm not saying that based off of an immutable attribute that you shouldn't be able to vote. I'm saying that you should make a determination based off of your own choices whether or not you are actually qualified to be making voting decisions. Anyways, think back about, hundreds of years ago when the printing press came along. Weren't there people saying, hey, you know what? The printing press has caused a lot of problems. Don't you think that when, the whole Protestant Reformation came along, that there were people saying, oh, we've become so polarized and this is all the printing press's fault? Right? That happened. But then we don't talk about that anymore. Why? Because over hundreds of years, we've learned what the consequences of that change is, and we've taught our children how to deal with it. Right? This is the same thing with the internet. You're getting, especially this last election, you had a lot of people that this was the first time that they've really been involved in social media. It's the first time that they've really been involved with social media as it pertains to politics, and they don't really know how to deal with it. And over time, the things that are really getting them triggered up and everything will be less powerful because they understand what's going on and how they get manipulated better. I just want to go back to Kyle because this is one where I'm just like, it's so obvious. Like, I honestly believe that if you think he is going to be convicted of murder, you either one, didn't look at all of the information to see what actually happened, or B, you don't understand the law. Okay, that kid, he was running away from people. The guy tried to grab his rifle and then he shot. It couldn't be a more clear case of self-defense. That state, you don't have a obligation to flee. Okay? But he fled anyways. He fled, and it was only when this guy got caught up to him and was trying to grab his rifle that he shot back. There is absolutely no interpretation under the law. And I spent, when this happened, man, it was so interesting to me. And I read like those 3 days, I just did nothing but read legal information and like all of the laws that were involved with it and lawyers' interpretations of it and like the specific laws there in Michigan and stuff, right? There is no way that they're going to be able to convict him of murder. Zero chance. They might be able to convict him of something, but it won't be murder. Okay, but can we agree to disagree without killing each other or rioting? There you go. You don't know. You clearly give me... So here's what you got to make an actual argument. So I gave you an argument. He was fleeing. Because he's waiting trial. Do you not see? So what you just said there. So he asked, why is he still in jail? Let me explain to you how this works. Okay. You have a trial. Now, I think that they haven't even had a bail hearing yet, right? For this particular thing. Or no, actually, I have to go back and look at this. Let's see here. What was his last name? Kyle Rittenhouse Bale. Last I checked, he was just being extradited over to the other states. So I don't know where that's at. Oh, okay. So they considered him a flight risk and they kept him in. That's okay. All right, but I'm just so he's still in jail, of course. But the thing you understand, he hasn't been convicted yet, right? And what will happen is what will happen is maybe they'll come. So he didn't carry the gun over state lines. That's the other thing. You've said a number of things, Jack King. Like I'm straight up telling you, you've said a number of things that are just outright false. Okay. He didn't take the gun across state lines. He was using somebody else's gun and that person lived in Michigan. So he didn't carry a gun across state lines. So that's the first thing, number one. Something that you didn't know. Piece of information that just destroys. So why should I sit down and believe you when you're saying things that we can go and prove are objectively false? Okay. Anyways, they might convict him of something, but it will be one of the smaller charges. And then what will happen is they will say, well, he's already served that much time and then he'll get out. That's how these things tend to go. He's only 17. So there's kind of some weird laws about that part. But whether or not he should have had a gun in the first place is completely irrelevant as to whether or not the act was self-defense. So you could convict him of being a minor in possession of a weapon, but that would not make his self-defense murder at that point. And you can go and you can read the laws on that. It's just like if you're a kid and you're at home and then somebody breaks into your house and then you go and you find your parents' gun and you shoot the intruder, would you get convicted for murder? No, you wouldn't. So whether or not he should have had the gun in the first place is irrelevant to whether or not it was murder. First degree intentional. Just because you're saying something doesn't make it true, Jack. I mean, I'm enjoying this. Because it's easy because you're just so clearly clueless, dude. Man, I can't help but say things like when I'm feeling but how is it intentional homicide? They attacked him first. He retreated first. They were trying to take the gun out of his hands. It's called self-defense. It is okay to take another person's life if you have to do it in order to preserve your own life or prevent yourself from incurring serious physical harm. That's what the law says. There's no way he's going to get I don't even think he'll be convicted of manslaughter, to be honest. 305. I think that they could get him on something else, being a minor in possession of a weapon or something like that. Kind of seems like there was some things about the law there that Kyle didn't understand, but they're not going to get him on self-defense or on murder. No, now you're just being stupid, Jack. I think that if you are attacking somebody and trying to kill them or inflict serious bodily harm, that you, under the law, can defend yourself. Yeah, you know what? This is probably just somebody that we already know trying to troll me. But I feel like I have sufficiently proven my case anyways. So you're not saying anything you're not saying anything anymore. When you start repeating the same thing over and over again. So you know what's another thing, if I can say, because this kind of reminds me of something that happened. Like last time I beat somebody in an argument, they said the same sort of a thing. It's like, oh, you only have so many viewers. And it's like, the number of viewers that I have doesn't mean a thing. I don't necessarily want to have 1,000 people watching me at a time. That would be problematic. 30 viewers at a time is pretty good. You think he was trolling? I mean, I don't know. It's something that I find happens to people is they'll start an argument and then they become so emotionally involved in that argument, but because they don't really have the skills or knowledge to really make an intelligent case, then they start to resort to like trolling like tactics to try and argue. So Jeff says, then why stream? Well, if it got to that point, I might have to stop. I don't know. I really don't know. But I started this stream as a way for me to track my trading. And then it turned into that we build such a great community out of it, and I get so much out of having you guys from the community that it was worth it to keep going and to build it. You know, to actually make one-off videos with the stuff that we do know and that we can provide, and, you know, finding new members from search. But my intention was never, I want to build the channel as high as I can, but the intention was not necessarily to have 1,000 people watch me on the live stream, you know? You don't need mindless masses who choose to be ignorant. Yeah, having a username 305790 was a little annoying because I want to use his name, but now I'm just going to call him numbers. Yeah, RJ says enjoy the smaller community. I really do. I like that almost every name that I see here are people that I know, and that you guys are here every day. That's great. And I really look forward to when this whole coronavirus nonsense is over and I can meet more of you guys in person. Because my wife, you know, hopefully the airlines get back together and my wife gets working again, and then I can travel anywhere I want and I can come and see you guys. More is less on those big channels. There's no sense to that. Yeah. Honestly, I also think that the viewership is the most important factor in the number of people that watch the live stream is the number of people that are actually interested in futures. That's actually not that popular. When you go and you look, like, actually, let's go and look at some of the other guys. I haven't looked for a while. Yeah. So he's actually taken off quite a bit, but like the guy that I consider to be like the golden standard in our space, Anthony Crudelli, who is a very well documented, successful career, and now has a YouTube channel, and he has 7.2 subscribers. So he has a little less than double the number of subscribers that we do. And I look at that and I'm thinking like he should have 50,000 subscribers or something like that. And why isn't it that high? But then you realize there's actually not that many people that trade futures. That bigger futures channels, the mods talk about how much money they make, so people gravitate because they think they will duplicate. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I mean, some of you guys here in chat do talk about how much money you make. But I spend so much time telling people that, you know, what the stats are and how difficult it is. Maybe that's a turnoff. Or maybe they come in and they say, "Oh, futures trading isn't really what I thought it was. I guess I'm not going to do it." I wonder how many people I just turned off to futures trading altogether. Yeah, are there channels with futures trading where they're live and they have 300 to 400 viewers? So that's quite impressive. I've wondered how you get to that spot. We'll every once in a while we'll get 50 viewers. I suspect, you know, we're back to our normal viewership right now, 30. But that might be because it's a holiday. I don't know. You can name 3? Really? And they trade futures. No, I'm not. The only other guy that I really know of doing this is Matt, and I don't think that he gets 300 to 400, but I know there are other channels out there that are kind of live trading, but they're not like and they might trade futures, but they're not focused on it. Does he really? That's interesting. Let me look. Oh, you're right. Oh, but you know what? He's built his subscriber base up by quite a bit. Yeah. So the reason that he gets that is because he has 17,000 subscribers, right? So like let's if we do the math, let's see how correlated is it to the number of subscribers that you have. Let's see. So let's say that on average I get 50. So that's really 13. So then if I times my 4,000 subscribers by 13, I have 52,000. So it doesn't completely track with, but the number of subscribers that he has more than counts for it. Does the market close? That's a good question, actually. Let's go look. Holiday calendar. Oh, it doesn't even list it on the CME. So I think the answer is no. I think that it's a government holiday. I think this is a case where it's a government holiday and not a market holiday because the stocks are trading. So there's some of those situations where the stocks really aren't trading and the futures do, but anyways, that one it's always interesting. So like this right here, that Anthony Crudelli has 7,000 and Matt has 14,000 is, I think, a travesty. Not that I have anything against Matt. I don't recommend trading with a stop larger than your target, and you know, I'm never going to go in and try and attract people to my channel by putting in how much money they can make in every video. And that's probably a significant factor in his success. But it's just, it seems to me like the guy that accounted for 10% of all S&P 500 mini futures contracts at one point in his life, and he only has 7.2 subscribers, and there's other people that that just doesn't sit well with me, you know what I mean? And I'm sure that there probably is a significant portion of the people that are like, that are not like the politics, or they don't like my politics. And so maybe that decreases the viewership by 20% or something like that. I bet you that's probably is a factor to some extent. But the point I was trying to make is how popular you are is not really indicative of anything about your worth, or how much value is in your channel, or how good of a trader you are. And in fact, I kind of feel like that the opposite is true, that you don't necessarily want to be following somebody with a huge following. And I kind of worry. So like, you come in, just like Matt's a good example. I have nothing against the guy. I've never met him, so, and it doesn't seem like he's being dishonest. I just don't like his strategy. Yeah, he actually had a little bit of a boost in November. How did that happen? He must have had another video that went wild. Because you can kind of see here where it was like, when he started, he was a much smaller channel than even us. And then all of a sudden it just took off. He had Koreans rate his stream, really? Yeah, the funny thing is that I know you guys watch, because it tells me here. Where is that? How do I get to that? That's funny. So are you saying that if Koreans spam my stream, that it'll make our stream more popular? Audience, here it is. So here it shows you what other videos your audience watched, and it shows you a bunch of ones by Matt. There's also this Brian Watt guy. He's newer. Are you familiar with him? Huh? Let's see what he's doing live. Or is he doing live? Probably. Oh, I guess not. He does stream it though. So he probably gets up to 650 viewers or so. But he had a big following on Twitter before. That's how he did that. Mr. Yen, I've never heard of that one before. You're long from 30, 6450, and it feels like watching paint dry. I like it though. Well, actually, it was a good entry. Above 68, you run the risk of exhaustion somewhere. I don't know how far up above that it can get, and generally speaking, they would want to try and get to 3574 or so. Ooh. And we're kind of at the higher end of the Bollinger Band, so it'd be, if I had taken that one with you, I would be taking it off. You get stopped out a bunch of times. Yeah, happens. I would say that it's a holiday, and take a little bit and run and come back another day. What would you say, Watts is more of a showman? I could try to be a showman, but I don't feel like that it would be, you know what I mean? When it goes against him, he keeps adding to position. Well, I've done that before on Sim. I mean, actually, I've done that a lot this year. with the micros, because it usually works out. No, I've thought many times like, oh, Seth, you just need to get like more excited about things and pretend like everything's a really big deal, and then you get like way more engagement and people watching. But then I think about that and I'm like, number one, that would be so exhausting for me. And I think it would probably affect the trading. And then it would attract the wrong kind of person, you know? Yeah, isn't Cardinal Cash Brian Watt? Is that someone else? Oh, no, that's someone else. I have a friend that shows me stuff from Cardinal Cash all the time. But he wasn't, the stuff that he showed me was like a little different. Oh, well, he is showing a live stream. Yeah, okay. You say that they're entertainers. I mean, I kind of consider myself an entertainer, but I think that my entertainment is more, you know, the discussion, right? Which is where it is kind of like, yeah, we do get into politics a lot, and I have a certain opinion on politics, and I'm more than willing to argue with you on it. And I know that there's at least a few of you that don't agree with my politics and still watch, which is cool, right? And I do want to make some videos that are entertainment videos. I just every time that it comes to when it's like, okay, well, maybe we could make one of those now, and then I don't do it. And there are a couple of old ones there that you guys are mentioning that I've never seen, that I've never heard of before. One of the things that I find really interesting and weird is that I seem to be well known. I wouldn't be surprised if some of those people that I don't know anything about know more about me than I know about them. Because it's like, even though I've never had a channel that's like really blown up or anything like that, I've been doing it so long and so established that most of the people in the know do seem to know about our channel. Rob says discussions and market commentary are much better. Thank you, Rob. I agree. It's just interesting to me. Maybe I'm in denial about it and I'm really jealous and I'm like, oh, how come I don't have 14,000 subscribers? And the whole, oh, well, we don't want to be big is just a defense mechanism. But that's where, again, I keep going back to, like, I look at certain things and I'm like, oh, okay, I can see that the reason this individual blew up the way that they did is because they do this. You go, like, and the biggest one is you go and you make a thumbnail and you say you made $600 today, and you put that in every single one, and it's just clickbait. Like people just can't help it; they click on it, and I don't want to do that. You know, so it's like, oh, I know what to do, and I intentionally don't want to do it. Futures 71 is, yeah. How many does he have now? Here's another one. I'm pretty sure that he still has more than me, but I've wondered from time to time that I'm like, oh, it won't let me see because he doesn't show the number of subscribers that he has anymore. That's interesting. It has a lot of them. I have to give you, go ahead. I trust you, RJ. The question is going to be, is it going to be yeah, I don't know. Well, let's just see what he says. Oh, those guys know to the letter how they trade. Whereas I don't know your method. That's okay. That's interesting. So, because there are times where I will be sitting there thinking about something and I intentionally don't explain it. And maybe I'll explain why I did that thing later. But when I'm doing it, I don't. Because I'm like kind of paranoid about people following me. That makes sense. Like, I want to give people useful information and to teach them some of the things that I know, but I don't want to give them enough that they would make the same trades that I do. If they're in a trade, you know it from start to finish. Oh, okay. But that's where they're probably trading a technical signal, right? Oh, okay. Oh, whatever. So what I was going to say was going to be like, it's probably a valid criticism, but then it comes down to, okay, do I actually want to do that? Yeah, Future 71. Well, and Future 71 doesn't let us see his trading. I think that they showed us on... Did any of you guys watch his stream on election night? Did you see him enter trades? What was that like? Never do the same as you are because that is yours, but from your ideas we can get something different. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I get what you're saying, RJ. I think the thing is the one of the things that I try to get across, and I personally don't think I've done an effective enough job of yet. I'm trying to get there, but like I feel like it takes a little bit of time to maybe build a base, and then maybe once I've got some of these more important things through, then I can make videos that try to focus on this a little bit more. But one of the things that I'm trying to get across to people is that you can't follow somebody else to your edge can't be following somebody else. I think that's the most clear way of saying it. I think that some people believe, oh, I can just find this guy that's really good and just trade exactly the way that he does, or copy his entries, and then I can be a successful trader. And that doesn't work. The nature of the market is as such that that inherently can't work. So to be a successful trader, you have to understand the market and find your own edge. And where I would say there's the kind of edge that I think you should be trying to develop is an edge on information asymmetry. You can also trade off of market making, but I don't understand that, and I'm not sure if most of you can do that, and I don't know. I'm trying to learn more about that. But so then the other choice is informational asymmetry. And so what I'm trying to do is teach you guys how to find informational asymmetry on your own. Right? And then the thing becomes, now we're a community developing informational asymmetry edges together. Right? The copying doesn't work, which is why these gurus are mostly ripping off people. Yeah. Well, and there's two varying degrees. So like one of the things that I've never watched like a full stream from Matt or anything like that. And so I just want to be very clear that I don't really know the guy at all. I'd be willing to talk to him. But he doesn't appear to me to be holding himself up as like a guru, but rather he trades it, and what happens, and he's blown up a couple of times, and a lot of people don't realize. The new trader doesn't necessarily realize what the performance actually is. You know what I mean? Need to know and understand why the entries and exits. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I can tell you that I can tell you the things that I'm looking at, right? I am looking for what the current market positioning is. I am looking for an overextension in price as defined by standard deviation from a moving average. So basically Bollinger Bands. I'm looking for specific kinds of pushback in the DOM itself to show that there is actual traders pushing in that area. I am looking for, after I get in, more people following after me. So I want to see the cumulative delta increase in my direction. And I'm looking for that to all be in line with whether we are above or below the open and what the current news and sentiment is. And especially if I can get a piece of news that, I feel like that the market hasn't reacted to correctly. And that's where I was really getting the really, really great trades in the summer, right? And that is essentially my strategy. Don't have to post all winners when you're a YouTuber, not a trader, or all losers, yeah. But I don't think he does that. But I've been shown videos where he blows out. So that's where I'm saying, like, the issue with the way that he trades that I have is that he has a much larger stop than his target. And so you'll do really well for a long time, and you could actually probably pass combines and make a decent amount of money. And then you'll get into this period where like it just stops working and you blow up. And that's happened to him. So the recommendation I would make to him is take equal risk reward, try to get 70% winners. And if you're not getting 70, if you're above 50%, then that's great. But 70% is really what you're going to want to make to really be consistent in this game, doing that kind of strategy. And yeah, then you really have a good idea of if your strategy actually has edge in it. Because if you can't hit the high win rate with the equal risk reward, then you might just be only taking advantage of taking on excessive risk. So, but I don't think that he is being deceptive. Does that make sense? Yeah, that's why on Top Step he chooses the biggest drawdown account. There you go. Yeah, but I don't think he's being deceptive. And I mean, does he sell stuff? Does he have like mentorships or any of that kind of stuff now? I don't think he does. All right, I haven't even checked. Let's see here. He has a bunch of stuff. Funding. He tells them what his long-term portfolio is. I don't like to talk about my long-term portfolio. I don't want people to follow that either. Like something that I would hate would be to make a ton of money on my stocks because everybody on YouTube was chasing after me. He doesn't have like any links to like his own website or anything like that. It looks like he just does affiliate marketing. I bet you he gets a lot of affiliate referrals though. Oh, really? You say he trades on two monitors. One is his real account and the other is Top Step, but he only streams his Top Step? Ah. Well, that's interesting. But the one where he trades his real account, now, does he trade that differently from how he trades his Top Step? Yeah, anyone can YouTube and just martingale. It's true. It really is true, 305. I mean, what I've been doing lately, well, not lately. I kind of went into a period where I just like didn't get DGAF, but from May to September, I was thinking very, very seriously, and I was trying to only trade one contract and set risk reward and trying to get double my risk, and I was doing so. And there was a period there where I was making 2-to-1 R and 60% win rate. Actually, 1 week was great, and I was happy about it. And then the volatility came in, and when the volatility came in, it turned into like I would start out being like that, and then when I realized that it just wasn't happening that day, I would go in and I would take on more risk, because it basically turns into, well, actually, you probably can trade this, but you can't trade it without taking on more risk, essentially, right? And I need to become better at knowing when it's too much risk for me. Is probably my biggest problem right now, I think. At least. Oh, you didn't take it on that, Ace? Well, this is where you gotta try you'll go and try it for me, Ace. You go to speculatorseth.com and download my indicator package, and just take note of where you are in relation to the lines on the inventory cost basis. And then after a while, you might, improve where you take your profits at. Okay. Well, I'm a little bit past my time now. We've been talking about this for 10 minutes. I just find it interesting. I do. I really do. Another thing I will say is that it sucks being a lone wolf, you know what I mean? That's why I've been trying to start to direct the community more towards working together. Part of that has been why I put my indicator package out. I haven't really pushed that really hard very much because I kind of need to make a video about it, but I would like to get that going a little bit more, because I want to see when you guys take it and what you start doing with it. You know what I mean? No, well, Ace, you say no indicator is going to help into with a sideways market, but that's exactly what it tells you, right? Let me show you. So that's technically not a sideways market, but it's a really narrow market. So what you should see here is this is the average buyer location and this is the average seller location. And what are they doing? They are bouncing between them. Now there was a little overextension there, but then they're bouncing between them. So in that situation, and we know it's a holiday, so we should expect to see that. That's what I would want to be doing, is taking it, there like that. Okay. But we did get this period down here and we got this period up here. So then we get into, okay, the buyers are winning out actually, but because this market is so narrow, there's only so many people to stop out. And so then we get up to this line, and that's where I have to say, like, okay, or where I was trying to say to you earlier, well, look at where we are. There's not very many people to stop out. If you're going to hold on to it, you're going to have to hold on to it for a really, really long time, because it does look like they could go further, and I bet you that they could probably get up to here. But it's just going to take a long time because they don't have a lot of people to stop out, right? And then the other thing I look at is, where we're at. So right now, I is that a good spot to get long where you're already touching the top Bollinger Band? Not really. You're personally waiting for Trump to concede defeat before going long again? Anyways, so that's why I want you to look at it, Ace. So go download it. And if you go download it and then send me an email with the instructions, I'll give you free access. Yeah. Okay. Well, no, thank you. Because like I said, it's like I feel like this is a collaborative thing. And I found this system to be really helpful. But I think that what's going to happen is you guys are going to discover things about it that I never would have thought of that are going to make it truly, truly amazing, right? That's good stuff, Seth. Thank you. Cool. Okay. I've yapped too much. I got to go. I will see you guys tomorrow. Probably a better day. And then in the meantime, stay profitable, friends.